Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Was not here yesterday. Why? Seeing Seinfeld.
Oh, God, I'm so absolutely jealous. So I have to ask you, because we're both huge Seinfeld fans, and like my biggest concern of ever seeing Jerry Seinfeld is the concern that I would be let down. Like, it would be everything coming together for me. Did it disappoint, or was it everything you thought it would be?
You know, I thought it would be so much less, because like, I love Seinfeld. I love Seinfeld so very, very much. But I mean, here's the thing about Seinfeld. Like, watching Seinfeld, I laugh and I think it's hilarious and I think it's brilliant and intelligent and funny. But it's not like a belly laugh thing for me. Is it for you?
No, not usually. Occasionally, but not usually. No, usually I'll just sit there and I'm continually amused. Occasionally there'll be something that I'll just die laughing at and I just can't stop laughing.
Yeah.
But no, usually I'm just continually amused.
So I was expecting to be continually amused, and I was expecting to go in there and be like, oh my gosh, that's so clever. That's so amusing. That's such a, and I think, you know, the observational aspect of his humor, that really, really is something very special, you know, because when people go, you know, think of observational comics, they immediately think of, what is the deal with this? No, observational is the ability to notice things and put into words stuff that we've all been thinking our entire lives, but almost haven't realized that we've been thinking ourselves. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he'll talk about stuff and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, he hit the nail on the head. Yet, how in the world have I never heard anyone do content on this, do material on this? And how in the world have I never thought of the material on this?
Yeah, it's just like he articulated what we've all felt but haven't put into words, or sometimes haven't even articulated in our own brains. And that's the part that makes it so unbelievably brilliant to me. So I was expecting that. And, you know, I'd never gotten a chance to see Jerry Seinfeld do stand-up before. He's one of my hugest heroes ever. He's kind of like the reason I'm in broadcasting, to be honest with you. And the TV show is such a massive part of my life, and I continue to watch them. They just keep getting smarter and funnier, but I wasn't expecting to do that, you know, hilarious belly laugh thing, and I was rolling on the floor in the first 20 seconds. Like, I almost passed out. I was laughing so hard. He came out with so much energy, like he literally ran out on stage. The guy's, you know, getting a little longer in the tooth now. He's 63 years old, and he talks about that. But it was so unbelievably hilarious from the get-go. And it was so much more than I ever could have hoped it would have been. Like, it's funny because people talk about, like, who would you like to meet? You know what I mean? People talk about who would you like to meet, who means a lot to you. Would you like to meet any members of the New York Mets? No. With the New York Mets, I just want to be a fan. You know what I mean? I want the best seats possible, but I don't want to be friends with anybody on the team. I don't want to get to know them. I don't want to shake their hand. I've done too much of that with rock music. You know, I do rock radio and have done for years. And every time you meet someone, it kind of loses a little bit of its sparkle. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it. It's super cool, you know, meeting all these guys and girls and bands that you've loved for years, and that's awesome. But it does kind of take away some of what makes it special. So I would never want to meet any of the New York Mets for that reason. And people always say, would you like to meet Jerry Seinfeld or the Beastie Boys? And like Beastie Boys, I almost fell over when I met Mixmaster Mike, who was their DJ for just, you know, not the vast majority of their career. And I needed a moment to recover from that. That was such a big deal. But I would never want to meet, say, like Ad Rock or Mike D, just because, like, if they're having a bad day or something like that, it would destroy me, you know, or it would just destroy a lifetime of listening or whatever. So I never want to have a negative experience with those folks. And, you know, they're just normal people, and it can't be that thrilling to meet me. It's going to be this massive, potentially transcendental experience for me, another annoying fan to them. You know, yeah, okay, change your life. Very good. Yeah, massive impact. Sure. You're fantastic. Trying to eat lunch. You know what I mean? Like, that would be the experience. And I don't want to open myself up to that. But I thought to myself, you know, when people have asked, would you like to meet Jerry Seinfeld? And if he was kind of a jerk to me, I would just love it that much more. Like, yeah, no, this is not interesting to me. No autographs. No, I won't be doing this. And that was part of his set. He was like, I love being in my 60s now. Now I'm 63. it's great because I just say no without any explanation. I used to have to come up with justifications and reasons and all these different things that would explain why I wasn't going to do something. Now I'm 63. It's just no. And I love that so much. But yeah, it was everything that I hoped it would be and so much more. From the get-go, I was on the floor laughing. And I got to tell you, I think as he's getting older, he's just getting better because he lets you into his life a little bit more, and it's enthralling the whole time. The whole experience felt like I was on drugs. It felt not real, and I'll explain why next.
Real radio.
104.1. Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
You know why seeing Jerry Seinfeld was like this crazy out-of-body transcendental experience that was so much greater than anything I could have ever imagined? I mean, besides the fact that he just came out and he was tearing it up and it was like joke, hitting you. It was like joke punches hitting you in the gut over and over again to the point where you couldn't breathe. Within the first 30 seconds, I was almost on the floor. I was laughing so hard. But you want to know what made it so incredible seeing him live and what made it sort of like I said, almost an out-of-body experience?
I do, because I literally can't even like wrap my head around it.
There's very few times where I've seen this happen, and everybody I think has their own version of it, with their own person where they would have this kind of reaction, or their own band, or maybe their own athlete, but it was a lot like, to bring up the Beastie Boys again, it was a lot like seeing Beastie Boys play. When I saw Beastie Boys play, yes, they're the very best at what they do when it came to putting on a live show. There is no one better. There is no one more entertaining, much like Seinfeld. But beyond that, it goes one step further. Like when they hit the stage, it was like they're doing it. They're being the Beastie Boys. Like they're just being that thing that's been such an amazing, omnipresent force in your life for so long. And when Seinfeld hit the stage and you hear the voice and you see the guy and you see the facial expressions, you're just like, he's being Seinfeld. And that's all. And it was just like this transcendental journey of, I lost track of space and time, and it was almost like it's crazy because if you've listened to the show for any length of time, I don't drink. But it was almost an out-of-body experience seeing the show where I was like, it was almost like I was experiencing it from a couple different perspectives at once. Does that make sense? Does that sound really out there? It was so much more than a comedian being hilarious. It was the guy being the guy at the same time that just made it was just almost too much to take in. At the same time, you're in tears laughing, and it's just, it was beautifully disorienting seeing him play live.
God, I'm jealous because I can't even imagine the feeling. I've never felt it.
Right.
To me, it's kind of like being in love when someone explains being in love to me, and I just kind of chuckle because I've never been in love, so I'm like, someone's like, oh, that feeling. And I'm like, no, I don't, I'm like, I've never had a girlfriend over 2 weeks. My idea of a breakup is just changing my phone number so I don't have to deal with them anymore. So, it's like it's the whole concept all over again. It's like,
you've never had a girlfriend longer than 2 weeks, yet you've changed your phone number.
Yeah.
You must have, those must have been very determined couples weeks for her.
It's complicated. Sometimes it's just easier to get a new phone number and just kind of disappear. I don't like confrontation. So if you just disappear, there's that lack of confrontation. It's a whole different topic. But anyways, so
I'll say it is can open, worms everywhere, paging every last shrink we know.
It's fine. I'm fine with it. But yeah, so I'm so jealous. I can't imagine the feeling. I don't know that Seinfeld would do that. I mean, I'm just as big of a fan of Seinfeld as you are. I hope that he would do the same thing for me. I do.
It wouldn't be the same for everyone. I think you really have to love. It really has to mean something to you, I think, for something like that to happen. And maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But you know what else I found to be really interesting about it was So there's this new school of comedy where, and I think George Carlin was really the first person to start doing it. For years and years, comedians would do this. They would work on 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and get it perfect so that they can go on the Tonight Show and then get booked for the rest of their lives. But they'd be doing the same 5 to 10 minutes for years. But George Carlin started doing this thing where, and I guess this was sort of like when comedy specials started being a thing. He was like, I would do a year's worth of material, spend a year getting it great, do the special, and then at the beginning of the next year, start all over again. And there's a lot of people that do that. They've got a brand spanking new fresh hour. They'll get rid of things that, like once they've done it for the special, it's gone. Seinfeld doesn't do that. He said it's sort of like he cuts the bottom 20% every year is what he does. Like, you're not getting the laughs, you're out. Sorry, buddy, you're fired. Like, he'll do that with his material. So he did a lot of jokes where I knew exactly how they were going to end. And it was almost like hearing your favorite song played live. Like, you knew the punchline, but you still laughed. It was incredible. He did this one about doing nothing since he bailed on TV.
Question is this. What have I been doing? Everybody says to me, hey, you don't do the show anymore. What do you do? I'll tell you what I do. Nothing. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty good. You're thinking, I might like to do nothing myself. Well, let me tell you, doing nothing is not as easy as it looks. You have to be careful. Because the idea of doing anything, which could easily lead to doing something, that would cut into your nothing, and that would force me to have to drop everything.
Unbelievably brilliant.
Awesome.
Just so brilliant. And we all knew where it was going. Like, everybody that's any kind of a Seinfeld fan knows that bit. But we were all hanging on every single word. We knew exactly when it was about to hit. And Seinfeld has this thing where he sees his material like a song where, one little word or inflection out of place and it doesn't have the same sort of impact on you. And so the way he hits the punchline is virtually identical, I think, every single night. So we all knew it was coming and we were almost mouthing the words along with him. And when it happened, we were all in hysterics. And then he accurately predicted what the rest of us were going to do with our night. And that was brutally hilarious too. We'll get into that next.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah, give it up.
Saw Jerry Seinfeld the other day. The older I get, the more I start to appreciate these experiences, especially because, some of them are once in a lifetime things, or at least they're once in my lifetime. I've never done them before. Like Tom Petty, huge Tom Petty fan. One of my earliest radio memories was hearing Tom Petty on the radio and going, what the hell is that? And just being drawn to it and being a massive fan ever since. And this is like going back to when I was like 4 years old. Cut to getting to see him this past summer just gone by and going, there's no way it's going to live up to it. Like, I've been a fan. I've built up in my mind what a show could be like for years and years. There's no way this guy at his age could possibly wind up living up to the hype in my mind. Yet for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long his show was, again, it was sort of like seeing Jerry Seinfeld, where it was like I lost track of space and time. And it was just, had this amazing experience of getting lost in all these songs that were part of the soundtrack to all of our lives with thousands of other people. It was truly incredible, amazing, beautiful thing. An example of how music can affect you in a way that absolutely nothing else does. And it was great. And then he passed away literally a week later. And it made me go, wow, that's terrible. But I'm also extraordinarily fortunate that I got to see him do that at least once in my life, because not only was it something that was incredible for me, that was what he loved to do. He wanted to do that with his life, and to see him doing it, like I remember when when he passed away, his daughter posted this picture online of her father, Tom Petty, standing in front of a crowd of thousands of people with his guitar held above his head saying, "My father made all of his dreams come true." And I was like, gosh, he did. And I kind of felt fortunate that I was able to be a part of one of those dreams come true, because apparently, it was that for him to get on stage and play to thousands of people that loved every second of his music was a big deal. So I don't know. As I get older, I start to appreciate these once-in-a-lifetime things. Maybe it's because some of my heroes are getting older and you don't necessarily know how much longer they're going to be doing it for. But yeah, Seinfeld, unbelievably brilliant. I know my show has to be more than playing Seinfeld bits that I think are great, but I'm just going to do that a couple more times. This is another one where... And it was so funny because I'd been to it. It's this incredible, brilliant ability that he has. And, some people that have said very nice things about this show say that we do a similar thing sometimes where we say what's on other folks' mind before they even know they're thinking it. He did this thing that mirrored my experience almost word for word of the last time I went to a movie theater and saw that thing where they asked you to pick up after yourself when you were done. Have you seen that?
No, I guess I haven't been to the movies in a while. I haven't seen anything like that.
Oh, yeah. No, they ask you. It was like when I went to CVS the other day and it said, like, if this medication has run out, and I think it was just like aspirin or something, please tell the attendant. I'm like, what the hell? Is it my job to stock the shelves now? I already have to use a self-checkout. Bite me. This is a you problem, not a me problem. But this perfectly sums it up.
I went to the movies the other day, so there's a new announcement in the movie theater mixed in with the trailers. Please pick up the garbage from around your seat after the movie. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll bring my orange jumpsuit and it wouldn't stick with a nail in it, too. In case I want to work my way down the highway after the credits. I'm not picking nothing up. I'm the one that threw it down. Why would I throw it down and then pick it up? There is an agreed upon deal between us and the movie theater people, whoever the hell they are. And that deal is understood by every single person in this room. The deal is, you're ripping us off. Okay? We get it. We're fine with it. A lot of overpriced, oversized crap we shouldn't be eating to begin with. Fine. It's all fine. In exchange for that, when I'm done with something, I open my hand. Let it roll down 8 rows. I'm sticking my arm down into that dark, scary hole. See if I can pry out 3 goobers that have been soda welded there since the Shawshank Redemption.
So brilliant. That was the other thing that struck me. Like, it's almost like he's maybe dumbed himself down for TV sometimes. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
TV, there's a lot of people, and I refuse to do it on this show, but in broadcast, whether it be television or radio, oftentimes you get told to, not everyone's going to understand some of the words that you're using and stay with you if you talk so fast. I've been told numerous times by every program director I've ever had since I started on the air, I need to use less SAT words and I need to slow down. They're like, you're doing rock radio, smaller words, slow down. And I refuse to assume that my audience are less intelligent than me. Like, we all like the same stuff. We're all the same person. We're gonna get along. And you know what? String of number ones for the last 10 or so years, my ratings credits would prove that I'm right. The people that listen to this show are in most cases a lot smarter than me. But I feel like on the show, and maybe even when he goes on talk shows, Jerry Seinfeld possibly dumbs himself down a little bit or slows down, or because like that was one thing that I was struck by when I saw him. I always thought he's brilliant and very clever and very funny, but the way he puts his bits together, like that thing where he said like a goober that's been soda welded to a chair at the back of a chair.
Genius.
And like that was the other thing that I was struck by when I saw him. I was like, oh, he's actually a genius. It's not just like he's clever. It's not just like he's funny. It's not just like he's worked really hard to become clever and funny. He's an actual genius. I was just like that. He's so much more brilliant in person than you necessarily realize on the TV show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm lucky. I I was blessed with the ability that I read at a 5th grade level. So I don't have to dumb myself down. I appeal to all ages, and nobody has to struggle to try and understand the words that come out of my mouth. But no, I completely agree. Like when I had never heard the term soda welded before, because obviously,
well, it's because he invented it. You know,
right.
Like it's
ingenious.
It's absolute, pure, unadulterated genius. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm like smart or anything. I think I talk like a normal person. And I think every program director I've ever had has always assumed that the people that are listening are not as smart as the average person. You know, I
Very
think
likely.
they underestimate like the intelligence of the general public. And I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think I'm that bright. I just think that people that listen aren't stupid either. So there's that. The thing that he managed to do that was so on the nose for me, and I'm guessing so many other people that went to the show, was he talked about going to a buffet. Like, if you go to a casino, what do? Do you go to the buffet, Travis?
Absolutely. I don't even need to go to a casino to go to a buffet. But yes, oh my God, I lived in Salt Lake for years, and we would go to Vegas all the time. I mean, because you can drive, you can drive it. So we'd spend the weekends in Vegas, and oh my God, man. Now I will say, and it's funny because if you live in Texas, the Vegas buffets, really, it's nothing. I mean, I think Texas has better buffets than Vegas. Just my opinion. But if you don't live in Texas, then it's one of those things, a Vegas buffet is going to blow you away. But it's nothing to sneeze at, as Seinfeld would say. But it's, yeah, I definitely hit up the buffet. Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because, like, whenever I've gone to Vegas, like, I can't remember. I think it was the Wynn. I went to the Wynn, which was, when it was kind of new and fancy. I was like, oh, man, the buffet here is outrageously expensive. It must be awesome. I'm like, nah, didn't really blow me away. And if there's anybody listening that works for the Wynn, or if the Wynn's an advertiser, sorry, do better next time. But I think you're totally right. You can go to the Taste of Texas or someplace like that. Or, man, there's this dirty little Chinese buffet. And, I say dirty just because you look at the outside and they haven't made much of an effort with the place. And the inside is clean enough to eat off of, sure. Like, to eat, but it's 59 between 610 and 290 on the right hand side. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No, is it like a small little one? I guess it's not one of the V-Star ones. It's it's a bit of a hole in the wall. It's just sort of like anonymous looking Chinese buffet that, like I said, the outside is, it's right off the highway. Does that scream gourmand to you? No, it doesn't. No. But like, because it's close to where I live in Houston, I went, and oh my gosh, I highly recommend it. Before you leave Houston, Travis, before you set off to sail the 7 seas, perhaps it's a place you should go and have one of your fat boy parties, as you like to call them. Oh my God. Eat entirely too much. I highly recommend it. But, of course, did myself hideous and horrible, terrible damage when I went to the buffet after seeing Jerry Seinfeld, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because this is what he had to say about it.
I travel a lot. I stay in a lot of hotels, a lot of buffets. The buffet is basically an answer to the question, well, things are bad. How could we make it worse? How could we design a food-human interaction environment that's basically like driving your dog up to Petco, giving him money, and saying, why don't you go in and get whatever you think you should have? You come back 2 hours later, the dog's wearing a headset, working there as an assistant manager. What is it about the buffet? It does fascinate me. There's something about it that breaks down the mind, reason, judgment, portion, sizes, combinations. Nobody would go into a restaurant and say to the waiter, I want a yogurt parfait, spare ribs, a waffle, 4 cookies, and an egg white omelet. People build these death row last meal wish lists. It's like a working model of all their emotional issues and personal needs, and then they can't decide when they're done, so they just start spinning like a robot vacuum with kale chips, maple bacon. They bump into the wall, muffin, 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 muffin. They start accosting strangers. Excuse me, where did you get that? What is that? I didn't see that. That's a caramelized chicken leg. I got to try that. Give me yours. You know where they are. You can get more. Come on!
And I went straight to the buffet and I did all of those things. Every last one of them.
It's incredible.
It was it was just start to finish. It was all that shockingly brilliant. It was so good. If you get a chance to see him, please do yourself a favor and take it. Oh my gosh. So, speaking of dogs, you know, and I know it's funny. If you follow me on Twitter @ADSXE is where you can do that. It lists very clearly most of the things that we've talked about today, the things that I love. I think my bio on Twitter says I talk on the radio. I love the Beastie Boys, Seinfeld, dogs, and the New York Mets. And there's a reason to love dogs the way that we do. I'm of the opinion, and this is a weird segue, but Seinfeld was talking about dogs, and it reminded me of this incredible story of the dog that is a great reminder to you, to me, to all of us, that dogs, I mean pets, but dogs especially, if you're ever looking for proof of God, I think a dog is the closest thing that we're ever going to get. Here's this thing that's been put on earth, and all it wants to do is serve us, to love us, to be our friend, to protect us. And all it asks for all of this is that we let them love us. That's it. That's all they want. And if that doesn't say to you that somebody somewhere is looking out for us, I really, quite frankly, don't know what will. But there's this amazing story of, well, did you hear about this, Travis?
I don't think I did.
There was this 3-year-old girl that went missing for a really significant amount of time this past week just gone by. And, well, her family found her 2 miles away the next morning. Now, here's the thing. This girl was totally fine, but there was a reason she was totally fine, and it has to do with, well, quite frankly, man's best friend. It's a beautiful, incredible reminder of what is good in life, and I'll share it with you next. Now, if you wonder how a 3-year-old kid goes missing, it has to do with the boredom that Jerry Seinfeld describes here.
And when you're a little kid in these places, you can't really take it. You know, the boredom is so intense, it's so powerful. When you're 5 and you get bored, you cannot support your body weight. You're literally I would just get down. I had to get down. I remember going to the bank with my parents, and you don't even know what a bank is. You just say, oh, I can't handle this. I don't even know what this is. And I would lie down flat. Just, sorry, Mom, there's nothing I can do. This place is so dull, I cannot get up. This is what I think adulthood is. Adulthood is the ability to be totally bored and remain standing. You're on a long line somewhere, no problem.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You wake. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So here's the deal. If you're like me, you love dogs. Like I said, if you go to my Twitter @ADSXE, or I don't know, my bio on pretty much any website of any radio station that I'm on or anywhere, I think probably what you'll wind up seeing, I don't update these things all that often, but I don't have to because I'm a fairly consistent individual in terms of my likes and dislikes. I think it'll say something like, I'm AD, I talk on the radio, I love Seinfeld, dogs, Beastie Boys, and the New York Mets. Except I got the order wrong. Dogs are at the top of that list, and there's a reason for that. As I was talking about earlier with you, I think that a dog is the closest thing that we're ever going to get to proof of God. Here's this thing that's been put on earth. All it wants to do is be by your side, be your friend, protect you, look after you, and all it asks in return is that you let them love you. If that isn't a sign that someone out there is looking out for us, I don't know what is, and this is perfect proof of that. 3-year-old girl, I don't know if you saw this past week, just gone by, but 3-year-old girl went missing overnight for the better part of a day. Her family found her miles away the next morning, but as it turns out, she was totally fine. Why? Well, this has to do with how much we love dogs, and we'll get into it a little later on in the show. Right now, though, Travis, what is going on in the world? Let's talk about the events of today in our segment, My Witness News.
As part of a lawsuit, David Copperfield was forced to reveal the secret to one of his trademark magic tricks.
Oh, I hope he had to explain in the courtroom how he ever got Claudia Schiffer to have sex with him, being that he's a magician at all, especially given those eyebrows. I mean, he's dealing with a major handicap there, too, really. Hi, I'm the Guess Jeans girl. Really? I'm a magician with some unbelievably creepy eyebrows. Well, I would like to hop into bed with you. How does this happen? Surely that has to be magic. I don't understand it. Have you ever been to a magic show?
I don't want to get into it, but I have a little bit of history as a magician.
You have what kind of magic did you do, Travis?
I don't want to get into it. I
think you already did. A little late now.
Look, I came out with some potentially embarrassing information when I told you that, and I think that's probably...
I've known you for quite some time, and at no point have you busted out a magic trick. When did this happen? We've been friends for like 14 years now.
I know. I've tried to move on. I have. I've tried to move away from it. I left magic shortly after high school.
Oh, wow, I was really serious because you said I left magic.
And if you're an Arrested Development fan, they're illusions, AD. They're not magic. They're illusions.
It was really funny. I was at the gym the other day and my headphone fell out and the entire gym realized that I lift weights completely unironically to the final countdown. So... like Job did his magic tricks to it. And
oh my God.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. Not Curb Your Enthusiasm, Arrested Development.
Anyways, let's move on past this whole thing. There's no need to...
I'm not going to press the issue and embarrass you, but did you ever do shows, like performances? Like, did you go out and, you know...
Yeah, I did.
Did this happen in front of people?
Yeah, I was known to do some magic shows.
What's the biggest crowd you ever magicked to?
Oh, it's a
Can we do
toss-up.
this like at maybe the next BuzzFest? Here's our friend Travis Golightly. He's going to entertain you with some magic now. Is yours the type of magic that works well on a large? Like, is it up close magic, or does it work well in front of a bunch of people? Have you ever sawed somebody in half? I'll say you've sawed someone in half.
I've sawed someone in half.
Yes, this is awesome. I think you know someone.
I know. Okay, we've revealed enough, right? We've revealed enough.
Well, here's the thing. When I saw Seinfeld in Vegas, I was like, this is so great. And I was like, I really also enjoyed Las Vegas. I just remembered when I booked my ticket to go see Seinfeld, it was after the unbelievably horrific shooting in Vegas. And I was like, all right, and that's why I wound up going to see Seinfeld. I forgot about this completely until just now. I was like, I'm going to do something in Vegas. Seinfeld's playing, always needed to see Seinfeld, going. And Vegas is a fun place. It's kind of like Disneyland for adults. You know what I mean? There's tons to look at and see and do. And I was like, as I was leaving Vegas, I was like, I had a good time here and I would like to come back. And this was fun. Seinfeld opened his show by saying how Vegas was great for about 36 hours. And I think he was, unless you live there, I think he was absolutely right. But I wanted to do another sort of 36-hour Vegas experience. And I was like, what could I go see? And I realized, like, I'm kind of a fan of Penn and Teller, but I've not like I am of Seinfeld, but I've never seen him live. I was like, maybe I'll make a point of going to see Penn and Teller live. Maybe that'll be my next trip to Vegas. But now I know I don't have to go to Vegas to see magic. I could just go to whatever boat Travis Golightly's working on and watch him saw people in half and make stuff disappear.
Oh my God. Okay, let's move away from it. Let's there's so much more to talk about. We should talk about that other stuff. It's so much better than this.
It's so funny because I remember once you were telling me that you wanted to be a surgeon, and I remember the classic Howie Mandel bit, who said, like, if I was ever a doctor, I would combine magic and being a surgeon, like pull a rabbit out, or maybe one of those never-ending handkerchiefs.
Oh my God, that would be so awesome!
And you wanted to be a surgeon too. You could.
I do.
Oh man,
I do.
The potential is just fantastic.
I know.
Moving right along.
Thank God.
We'll grill you on this later. Go on.
Oh let's not. Okay, here we go. Britney Spears posted an Instagram photo where she's wearing Daisy Dukes and doing a sexy dance.
Apparently, after inexplicably being under the impression that any of her fans in the year 2018 are dudes that are into chicks, they are not.
They are not.
Go on.
Adrienne Grenier from Entourage has launched a campaign called Stop Sucking to get Starbucks to stop using plastic straws.
Yeah, I saw that. And ladies really seem to be into this guy. I know a lot of dudes that really lived and died by the Entourage TV show. So it's not like this guy is without fans and supporters, but Adrienne Grenier from Entourage has started a Stop Sucking campaign to stop Starbucks using plastic straws. Unfortunately for Adrienne, no one launched a Stop Sucking campaign before he made the gosh awful Entourage movie. That was not good. Not good at all. Not good, I tell you. Not good.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
All right, so you and I will get into yet another story that proves that dogs are the single greatest thing on planet Earth a little later on in the show. Right now, though, Travis, let's finish up what remains of the news.
Starbucks' upcoming day of racial bias training could cost the company $12 million.
Oh, so what, like 10, maybe 15 lattes?
Exactly.
The horror. Have you seen all this brouhaha about what's her name? Tamika Mallory? Do you know who this is?
I saw something about it, but I didn't see enough to actually pay attention.
She's co-president of the Women's March. Also a big fan of Farrakhan. And she wants the boycott of Starbucks to continue because, well, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but like...
No, please, put words in her mouth because I know exactly what it is and it's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing to me. It is absolutely mind-blowing to me, the level of... She's been a bit of a media darling since the Women's March. Then a couple months ago, she went to a Farrakhan speech. Farrakhan's speech at the Nation of Islam convention was peppered with what a lot of people considered to be pretty openly anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And now she wants the boycott of Starbucks to continue because the Antidefamation League's involvement. Because of the Anti-Defamation League's involvement in Starbucks racial bias training, and she has a problem with that. She said, so you are aware, Starbucks was on a decent track until they enlisted the Anti-Defamation League to build their anti-bias training. The ADL is constantly attacking black and brown people. This is a sign that they are tone deaf and not committed to addressing the concerns of black folks. Be clear what's happening here. The ADL was one of a number of Jewish organizations that criticized Mallory in February after she attended Farrakhan's speech at the Nation of Islam convention. And, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And he gave this speech, which was just like, okay, that's pretty openly anti-Semitic. You don't have to really crack any code there. So it's become, the racial bias training at Starbucks has become infighting between the Women's March, the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan supporters, and the Anti-Defamation League. I am all for equality. I am all for people that speak for equality, and there's going to be people out here that are listening that get unbelievably angry about this. But here's the problem with a lot of these organizations that advocate for equality. If they should get it, there's a very good chance that their significance dries up and goes away. So if Mallory doesn't have something to complain about, where is she? Who is she? She's a media darling with nowhere to go and nothing to fight for. And that scares folks like her that have turned this into a profession. And honestly, is it just me, or does it just sound to you like Mallory just wants to get paid by Starbucks? You know, like Starbucks have enlisted the Antidefamation League. When they say they've enlisted the Antidefamation League to help them with racial bias training, you know there was a donation involved. You have some employees that did a hideously awful racist thing. There's no getting out of that. You can't do anything about that. So what do you need? You need somebody to kind of sort of co-sign you, say they screwed up, but now they're okay. And she's going, nah, they've enlisted the Anti-Defamation League. Who they really should be enlisting is me. They were on a good track. Now they're not so much. If they would only listen to me, translation, donate some money to something that funds my freaking life, then we'd be cool. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be angry about what I said. And look, I'm happy to be corrected. I would love to be wrong in this particular case. I would love it if she was just a person that was seeking equality and a person that wanted what was right in the world. But I think in this one you can follow the money and realize that it is slowing us all down when it comes to actually getting anywhere closer to genuine equality and making something that was terribly wrong right. All right, go on. What else?
Walmart is testing a new dress code for employees, which would allow them to wear jeans and different colored shirts.
Look, no matter how you feel about Walmart, you, me, all of us, we've all been into a Walmart at some point. We probably all will go into another Walmart at some other point. And it might be a little off-putting because the Walmart uniforms, these are one of the most sort of like omnipresent and ubiquitous things in the entirety of retail. You know what I mean? Like, you know what a Walmart employee is and because of what they're wearing. And can you imagine walking in and being like, wait, who works here? They're all wearing different colors and jeans and now I don't know how to spot because they're out of uniform. Do you think that will be disorienting to you if you go into a Walmart and you see that?
As long as you're wearing a name tag or a vest.
Oh, so you think the vest goes on over the shirt?
I would hope so.
Well, one thing we know to be true, their greeters will continue to wear the same things. Depends.
Yeah.
You know, because they're terribly, terribly old.
Yes, they are. I always feel bad when they don't provide them something to sit on.
I always just feel bad. I look at folks like this and go, I respect age. I think that people who are older than me are smarter and better and have seen more stuff and deserve more respect. And when I see that happening, I'm just like, I don't know what choices they made in their life, and I don't know what exactly is going on in their life, and I don't know how they got there, but I feel like it's wrong. I just do. But you know what? Who am I to be here in my ivory judgmental tower? Maybe they just want to get the hell out of the house because they're bored out of their mind and they want to do something. So that could be a thing. But there's an interesting thread running through the fact that every single Walmart greeter I've ever run into is approximately 2 to 3 years younger than Jesus. All right, what else?
Amy Schumer's new movie, I Feel Pretty, where she plays a woman who thinks she's gorgeous and amazing, even though she isn't, opened in third at the box office.
Oh. In totally unrelated news, Amy's next movie will be called I Feel Relevant. There were people saying, like, the part she was playing, like, they were like, you're not unattractive enough to be playing this role. They're like, and I don't know. Amy Schumer always does this thing where, like, I'm so fat by Hollywood standards, but I don't know. I feel like she's fairly... It's interesting because she plays this sort of like, oh, I'm not that pretty card. And I was like, I think she's kind of pretty. You know what I mean? Like, That's the thing. Like, I think she I do think she's really funny, man. Do you ever hear her, what was the bit she does about eating popcorn at the movies?
No, I don't think I have. I think her humor has like gone past me. I don't think I see her humor just because she's so she's kind of whiny, like I don't know if she's trying to be too political. Like I want to enjoy Amy Schumer because she's funny, not because she's trying to make a point. If I want to understand the news, I'll understand it from someone intelligent, not from Amy Schumer. Is she actually funny?
Well, she does this one bit about eating popcorn. She's like, you go on a first date, you're eating popcorn, and you're like, oh, popcorn. What the? sure, I guess I'll try some. You know, like, popcorn at a movie. What an interesting concept. I'll give it a go. And you start taking like one little piece at a time. You're like, this isn't bad. She's like, 30 seconds later, you're shoveling it in at a rate where your lip splits. I was like, oh my gosh.
It is true.
I do this.
It is.
And it's funny. I'm not even a girl on a date, and I do the same thing. Every time I order a bucket of popcorn, I'm just like, I'm going to eat a sensible amount of popcorn at the movies at a sensible rate. I might finish the whole bucket, but there's no reason I can't do it one piece at a time. Okay, 2 pieces at a time. Okay, 5 to 7 pieces at a time. All right, I'll just double fist handfuls and I'll suck down soda so it dissolves in my mouth and I can fit more in there faster.
I know. I started looking at the container and I'm like, I wonder if I can fold this to make like a funnel.
Popcorn funnels. Yeah.
Pour it into my mouth. This is a problem.
Yeah, so I will always enjoy Amy Schumer's comedy, mostly because of her bit about popcorn. All right, what else?
Beyonce fell during her set at Coachella over the weekend.
Yep. Kanye West is quoted as saying it was the greatest fall in the history of falling of all time. Go on.
Speaking of Kanye West, he's been working on 2 albums.
Well, you know, he's either that or stay at home with his wife and kids. Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails did that thing, and I have to believe his marriage played into it, because he was like, you know what? I'm not going to make music anymore. I'm going to retire. 9 Inch Nails is over. And he got married, and you never heard anything from Trent Reznor for about 1.5 years. And then all of a sudden it's like, Trent Reznor announces 9 Inch Nails is back and ready to rock. And it's because him and his wife were looking at each other going, I'm trying to remember the last time I opened up a door in this home and you weren't the person standing behind it. Can't you just go somewhere, make that music stuff and hit the road? When we started dating, you were home like 3 months out of the year. That was great. You're Trent Reznor. You're kind of sour and somber and a little difficult to take. Why don't you find something to do with yourself? And hence we got a new 9 Inch Nails album. I honestly believe that's what happens.
It's funny.
And by a similar token, I would imagine that Kim Kardashian is like, don't you have stuff to do on the other side of the world? Like,
probably so.
You're a genius. You're a musical genius, and you're an interesting fellow, but you're a little intense to be around all the time. Anyways, go on.
Cal Penn from Harold and Kumar turns 41 today.
Yeah, although I'm sure he celebrated on Friday, 420. What's he doing now? Is it one of them? One of the Harold and Kumar guys, and I don't know which one it is now sort of like a college professor. Like, they're both incredibly intelligent, and he's sort of like a college professor and an adjunct lecturer on a bunch of things. I think on physics or something like that. I could be making up the physics part, but he's one of those sort of like entertainers, like, oh man, shockingly smart as well.
Interesting. I'm not sure. That's very interesting.
I wonder if he'll regret that. You know who I was talking about the other day with someone? Danica McKellar. You remember her?
No, I don't.
Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years.
Oh, yes.
So she bailed. She was like, acting is silly. I'm going to do something more fulfilling with life. And I think she went to Yale, and I think she got some sort of degree in mathematics, and she's mind-numbingly smart. And then she was like, you know what mathematicians don't have a lot of? Money. And she went back into acting. And now, instead of, headlining movies and getting paid $20 million a pop, which she could have been doing if she stuck with it the whole time in a sort of Joseph Gordon-Levitt kind of way, she's like trying to claw her way back in through Lifetime movies. And I wonder if she's like, I should have, the noble pursuit of college was interesting, but
that sucks.
I really like driving Ferraris and living in mega mansions. But yeah. How much time do we have left? Should we talk about the?
Yeah, we need to. About 60 seconds.
Oh man. Okay. So, like I said, dogs are the greatest, and we know this for numerous reasons. Not least of which is this past week just gone by, a 3-year-old girl in rural Australia went missing during near her grandparents' house. Turned out she went looking for her mom, took the family's dog Max with her, and couldn't find her way back. Her family realized she was gone on Thursday. Then it got dark, so it prompted this massive search and rescue mission with a bunch of helicopters and cops and the whole 9 yards, but they still couldn't find her, and she was gone overnight. 3-year-old kid. And now, obviously, there's a lot of wildlife to worry about in Australia. There's a million different things that can kill you out there, let alone a 3-year-old child. So her family was understandably freaking out. But fortunately, her grandmother found her several miles. She made it several miles from their house. Found her the next day, and she was totally fine. Probably because the family dog stayed there and guarded her all night, even though the family dog is deaf and 17 years old and partially blind. Like I said, dog's single greatest thing on the planet. Apparently, the girl wasn't even traumatized by it. She told her family that it wasn't a big deal. She just got kind of tired, so she curled up with Max, and she took a nap.
I just